ChatGPT 5.4 just dropped, and it seems like it's coming out swinging. So as today they're releasing ChatGPT 5.4 and ChatGPT 5.4 Thinking. It's available in the API and Codex. They say this is their most capable and efficient frontier model for professional work, and they're also releasing ChatGPT 5.4 Pro and ChatGPT in the API for people who want maximum performance in tasks. So basically, this is the next level up. This is their next base level models when it comes to ChatGPT. This is their strongest they have so far. Is this ChatGPT 5.4 that's at least publicly available? And it's not bad, but we're gonna see just how powerful this is, because they say that ChatGPT 5.4 brings the best of recent advances in reasoning, coding, and agentic workflow into a single frontier model. So you can think of ChatGPT 5.4 as a greatest hits type of model, where it's combining all the greatest things about the previous ChatGPTs into a new and improved ChatGPT 5.4. It said it incorporates the industry-leading coding ability of ChatGPT 5.3, improving how the model works across tools, software environment, professional tasks involving spreadsheets, presentation, and documents. So the results of the model that gets complex real world done accurately, efficiently, and effectively, delivering what you asked for with less back and forth. And I'm happy about this model, but it doesn't seem like it's super advanced. If you go back to when ChatGPT was first released, when it was getting ChatGPT 4s and 3s, they were huge leaps, even in the different versions. But this one, it seems pretty cool, but it seems like this is kind of like Codex, ChatGPT 5.3 Codex, with a little bit of more fine tuning and efficiencies put into it. At least that's how I'm getting the vibe of this. They say in ChatGPT 5.4, thinking now provide an upfront plan of its thinking so you can adjust course mid response. Like I said, this is ChatGPT 5.3 Codex, but now they're adding these new gadgets and widgets to it basically to make it better adhere to your prompt, better for coding and all this other stuff. But it doesn't seem like it's a better underlying model. Whatever ChatGPT 5.3 Codex is, it doesn't seem like ChatGPT 5.4 is a better AI model at base. It seems like they have like this new adjust course mid response. I think it also improves deep web research, better maintaining context. You see what I'm saying? It seems like they're definitely adding more capabilities, but it's kind of like the base layer is 5.3 Codex. It's in Codex, an API. ChatGPT 5.4 is the first general purpose model released with native state of the art computer use capabilities, which they call it KUA, which we'll get into a little bit later, enabling agents to operate computers and carry out complex workflows across applications. It supports up to 1 million tokens of context, which is becoming the industry standard. I feel like a year ago, 1 million tokens was a huge deal, but it seemed like DeepSeek, Claude, Kimi K2, like a lot of these models now, 1 million tokens is not that impressive. It's literally like the standard right now. I think even Claude 4.6 Opus has 1 million context window. ChatGPT has 1 million context window. I wouldn't be surprised if Gemini 3 or Gemini 3.1 Pro also has 1 million token context window. Allowing agents to plan, execute, and verify tasks across long horizons, ChatGPT 5.4 also improves how models work across a large ecosystem of tools and connectors with cool search, helping agents find and use the right tool more effectively without sacrificing intelligence. Finally, ChatGPT 5.4 is our most token efficient reasoning model, using significantly fewer tokens to solve problems with when compared to ChatGPT 5.2. And I feel like they made that distinction because they're using ChatGPT 5.2, right? Like I just said earlier, 5.3 and 5.4, they're kind of closer than we think as far as the models, because it's probably not that much more powerful than ChatGPT 5.3. It's just 5.4 just feels like 5.3 extra steps with like all the bells and whistles of fine tuning and better model handling and all this other stuff. It doesn't seem like it's all that impressive to me. It is impressive as it is an improvement, but it doesn't seem like it's a huge improvement. If you was using ChatGPT 5.3 codecs or 5.2, you're not really going to be missing out too much on what 5.4 has, except in special use cases. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. So here's the comparison between ChatGPT 5.4 and ChatGPT 5.3 codecs and ChatGPT 5.2. We even see with ChatGPT 5.3 codecs and 5.2 that there's not really too much difference when it comes to the GDP val, but 5.4 has that 83%. But see, when we come to Sweep Bench Pro, we see that ChatGPT 5.4 has 57.7%, and Codex 5.3 has a 56.8. It's a little less than a 1% jump performance when it comes to GDP 5.3 Codex and ChatGPT 5.4, which is good, don't get me wrong, but is the percentage really necessary? Even when you go to 5.2, it's 55.6%. It's not that far behind even ChatGPT 5.4. So if using ChatGPT 5.2, you're still pretty solid when it comes to Sweetbench Pro. So if you're a coder developer, you're not going to be missing out too much. OS World, I think it's a huge upgrade from ChatGPT 5.2, but we see here when it comes to 5.4 and 5.3 codecs, 1% change. That's not really huge. We see with ChatGPT 5.3 the huge changes from one model to the next, but like I said, ChatGPT 5.4 seems like codecs with a little bit more fine tuning and extra bells and whistles. And then even with Python, 54.6%, 51.9, and 46.3. Not bad. But what are you really going to be missing out on the next 2 or 3% here? Browser comp, I think, is probably where it shines at a lot, and we see that throughout the models, it's definitely gotten better. Knowledge work, where you see on ChatGPT 5.2 general reasoning capabilities, ChatGPT 5.4 delivers even more consistent and polished results on real-world tasks that matter for professionals. So I guess this is the GDP val, which measures that. So on GDP val, which tests agents' ability to produce well-specific knowledge, work across 44 occupations, ChatGPT 5.4 achieves a new state-of-the-art, matching or exceeding industry professionals in 83.0% of comparisons, compared to 70.9 to ChatGPT 5.2. So I think that's pretty cool to see that basically it's really good at replacing humans. I think it's so weird why this is a metric. I guess it's good that it's able to do this better than humans. Most machines are. Like if you're driving a car drives so much faster than you can walk or run. So yes, I guess that is a good metric to see from this, especially with it being AI. And it does show how much better it is from one model to the next, where we see that ChatGPT 5.2 is 70%, and even ChatGPT 5.2 Pro is 60% compared to the 70% and 69.2%. But what's interesting about this is that they have ChatGPT 5.4 on here and then ChatGPT 5.2 on here. It seems like they don't want to show ChatGPT 5.3 Codex because it's wouldn't be too far off from what they have now. It's just a fine-tuned model. And even theory, right? Theory is that ChatGPT 5.3 released the same time Claude 4.6 Opus dropped, right? So I think what's interesting is that ChatGPT actually may have dropped ChatGPT 5.3 Codex just to compete with Claude 4.6 Opus. And this ChatGPT 5.4 is what we really should have gotten if we waited for all the ChatGPT 5.3 codecs to be ironed out. So I think this is what we really should be calling it, ChatGPT 5.3, instead of it being ChatGPT 5.4. I think just the AI competition has gotten pretty substantial. And then we see some of the companies just talking about how good ChatGPT 5.4 is, which is great. But now we see here that we have actually some head-to-head comparisons to see how well it does. Where we see this is documents were generated with a reasoning effort set to high. So this is kind of like max effort. Where we see that it has ChatGPT 5.4, which looks pretty good. Where's ChatGPT 5.2, which you see 5.4 looks a lot better as far as formatting and how you want data presented. I think you see the same thing here with 5.4 versus 5.2. And you see that the comparisons here are, well, I would prefer 5.4 versus a 5.2, but still 5.2 is not bad. I think just 5.4 is definitely a little bit of extra to the detail, the bells and whistles, which makes it look more visually pleasing and appealing. And I think that's because, as we'll see later on, that they got a better visual understanding into this model, which is great. And then going to the last example, we see that they're doing, I think this is a PowerPoint of both of those. And the one on the left, it looked better than ChatGPT 5.2. Still not bad by no means, but I definitely say ChatGPT 5.4 is better. But guess what they did here again? They now add ChatGPT 5.3 codecs here, right? How well would ChatGPT 5.3 codecs compare to zero point 0.4 and zero point 0.2? You right? You would think it would be a little bit better than 2, but not as good as 5.4. Or maybe it's actually closer to 5.4 than we actually realize when it comes to this type of thing. And this is some more people blazing how well ChatGPT is doing. They have Ocean, Hockey Stack, and people just saying that basically overall is doing good, which is good to see. But now we're getting to the KUA, or the computer use vision. ChatGPT 5.4 is our first general purpose model with native computer use capabilities and marks a major step forward for developers and agents alike. It's the best model currently available for developers building agents that can complete real tasks across websites. And that's cool. Well, let's get down to the actual interesting parts. This is on OS World Verified which measures a model's ability to navigate the desktop environment through screenshot and keyboard and mouse. ChatGPT 5.4 achieves state-of-the-art 75% success rate, which is better than a coin toss, far exceeding ChatGPT 47.3 and surpasses human performance at 72.4%, which I think this human performance is the more interesting one compared to the ChatGPT 5.2, because like we said, we don't see 5.3 on here. We see it being compared to 5.2, which is 2 versions ago. How much better is it now compared to what we just got a month ago? But 72% of human performance, so it's better than a human, I guess, when it comes to these things. And so they have a Web Arena Verified, which tests browsers use. ChatGPT 5.4 achieves leading 67.3% success rate when using both DOM and screenshot-driven interactions. Compared to ChatGPT 5.2, 65.4 on online Mind the Web, which also tests browser use. ChatGPT 5.4, 92.8, which is really good. That's actually a huge upgrade compared to 5.2. And we see just how far the worlds are apart from each other when it comes to 5.4 and 5.2. Down here, we do see they have, well, calendar. They said that ChatGPT 5.4 interprets screenshots of a browser interface and interacts with UI elements through coordinate-based clicking and sending emails and scheduling an calendar event. Video is not sped up. So I think this looks pretty good to say that this is AI to be able to fill in all this information. I think is pretty cool to say that they're able to send emails, respond on the fly on this type of thing. I'm not sure if it's the best use case for something like computer use, because I think an AI could probably do this better programmatically by like just reading the email, add input, type of input, and then just like creating like some type of send automation. But I guess it's a good way to show. I think the second one is actually pretty good, where it says ChatGPT 5.4 processes a list of records and submits the information across 10 web forms using Playwright-based browser automation. Video is not sped up, so this is real time. So it seems like they got a list of like JSON information that's then being used in real time to fill out in a full web form. And this is actually pretty quick. I think this is a good good way to see this and illustrate KUA, or computer use, because what we see now with this job market is it is not forgiving when it comes to how many people are getting laid off and people who need a job. But it seems like it's now a numbers game. So seeing that maybe you have different applications and ChatGPT 5.4 can just fill this out in a flash, imagine how many resumes you could do at one go. And then now we have the comparisons. ChatGPT 5.4 improves computer use, built on the models and improved general vision perception capabilities. On MMMU Pro, a test of the model visual's understanding of reasoning, ChatGPT 5.4 achieves 81.2% success rate without full use and improved over ChatGPT 5.2 79.5%. Improved visual perception to translate into better document parsing capabilities. On Omni Document, ChatGPT 5.4 without reasoning effort achieves an average error measured by normalized editing distance between model prediction and group truth of 0.109, improved from ChatGPT's 5.2.140. So basically, it's better overall model and less error prone than even the previous model. Still don't see 5.3 here. I don't know why they keep on leaving out 5.3 in all of these. Maybe it doesn't have computer use type of workflow to use, so maybe this is not even a comparison you can use these two. But like, I feel like you could still compare it to like different visual understandings of different things. But who knows? I feel like they just flew by 5.3 and went straight to 4, and I feel like they could have just kind of gave us like a ChatGPT 5.3 Pro, which would have given us a lot more of these bells and whistles. But I understand wanted to make a whole new release. Of course, there's some more people telling them how good the computer use is and blazing them on everything. Hopefully I don't sound too jaded, but I'm just trying to be honest about a lot of these. I'm very interested and enthused by AI, but it just seems like a lot of it is marginal increments versus what we've seen in the early days of AI, and as well as how they're trying to sell it is different nowadays. But we even see here with the SWE Bench Verify, which is a coding benchmark, what we see here kind of tells another story. We see that the SWE Bench Pro, when you have ChatGPT 5.4 and 5.3 codecs, and ChatGPT 5.2, that we see that 5.2 is kind of off to itself, but we see how 5.3 and 5.4 are very close to each other and comparable to each other when it comes to these things. ChatGPT 5.4 combines coding strengths of ChatGPT 5.3 codecs with leading knowledge work, computer use capabilities. See, it seems like it's 5.4. It's kind of spelled out here. ChatGPT 5.4 combines strengths of 5.3 codecs with leading knowledge work and computer use capabilities. So is it not just saying that this is just 5.3 repackaged with knowledge work and computer use capabilities? So I don't know if that's really a huge upgrade on the base model. It's not like something that's revolutionary about the AI itself. It's more revolutionary about how they're using 5.2 or 3 or whatever to do these specific tasks. With like tool calling, prompt adherence. And I think the best thing to say is that they did update the visuals of 5.4, so it is a better overall visual model. That's the upgrade I think to the base model is. But a lot of the computer use and everything else, I think you see symptoms of that. But when you see our tool calling and everything, it's not really that much better than 5.3, I would say. Like I said, Codex delivers up to, it's all going on. Fast mode is, and Codex delivers up to 1.5 faster token velocity within ChatGPT 5.4. So just talking about just how well it does, that you could move through code faster because it's a faster model, which is great, and it's cheaper, it seems like. And what we see here is that we have some of the games that were made with ChatGPT 5.4. This one is a theme park simulation game made with ChatGPT 5.4 from a single lightly specified prompt using Playwright Interactive for browser playtest and image generation for the isometric asset set. The simulation includes tile-based path placement, ride and scenery constructions, guest pathfinder, queuing, and ride cycling. This is the prompt right here below. It says use Playwright Interactive. And it's a decently lengthy prompt, but it's actually not that in-depth in order to get this game, because this game actually looks pretty good to say that this is the prompt and this is the game. And it looks pretty good. And they also have this G, which this looks really good. This looks really good, I will have to say. And so, technical RPG created with ChatGPT 5.4 over multiple turns, using interactive for browser playtesting and image generation for the game's visual style, characters, and thematic asset set. The game features turn-based combat on a grid with systems for movement, actions, positioning, and encounter flow, alongside a presentation layer refined through iterative UI and shader work. So it's pretty good. I think this looks actually really good, but they did say this happened through multiple turns. ChatGPT created with this was a RPG. They said that this was an RPG created with ChatGPT 5.4 over multiple turns. So it seems like this may took a lot of iterations to get here versus the other one that didn't seem like it had that many iterations. But it does seem like a little bit more advanced, definitely more visually appealing too. Look at this Golden Gate Bridge flyover. And this is the prompt down here that you see to get here. And it's not that much code to get here. Instead, it only used ChatGPT 5.4 with slightly single from a single. So they used ChatGPT 5.4 from a single lightly specified prompt. So basically one shot at this, which is interesting. And the prompt isn't all that lengthy to get here. And so I don't think that's that bad, but I think you see how this is one turn of the dial to get here. And then the RPG game is a multiple turns of the dial. So single prompt, you're getting the Golden Gate Bridge. Not bad. But multiple pass-throughs for ChatGPT, you're getting something like this. And I don't know what the token consumption is to get something like this versus this, because this is just one prompt. Probably less than 1,000,000 tokens for sure. But the RPG game may have been something serious. I'm about to skip around a little bit because I think that kind of wraps up most of the big improvements, but they do have a few more. Of course, they have glazing, well, it is, which is fair. They also have a tool search that in the API, ChatGPT 5.4 introduces tool search, which allows models to work effectively when giving many tools, which is great. So if you want to integrate it with already available tools, that actually helps out. And also we see that this has a lot of token savings. We see here that ChatGPT 5.4 token savings is pretty good. They even say here that the tool search configuration reduced total token usage by 47% while achieving the same accuracy, which can save you a lot of money, especially at scale. And they talked about the agentic tool calling, where it's improves the tool calling, making it more accurate and effective when deciding when and how to use tools during reasoning. Because that's kind of a major problem when it comes to AI, is they could be using too many tools or not enough tools. They need to be efficient at using the tools at hand, just like a human, right? If you have a car and you have your feet and you're trying to go cross country, you don't want to walk. You need to be able to get in a car and drive and understand that like driving is going to be way more efficient than walking. But sometimes AI could be like, oh, we can do either or maybe walking is more effective because you won't have to use gas, but it doesn't make sense because it's going to take you months to walk across country. Let's talk about latency and reasoning and how like, accurate it is, and it's pretty accurate. So it talks about how it improves web search. And this is really good because when you're using AI to look at stuff, sometimes having these improvements can help you find more niche topics. It says ChatGPT 5.4 leaps 17% over ChatGPT 5.2, which is pretty good. And we even see here that this linear progression shows just how well it does in the browser comp, which is a measurement how well you're able to use like, browsers and stuff. And then he'll talk about the steerability. So it's similar to Codex, outlines his approach when it starts working. ChatGPT 5.4 thinking in ChatGPT will now outline its work with a preamble. For longer, more complex queries, you can also add instructions or adjust its direction mid-response. This makes it easier to guide the model towards the exact outcome you want without starting over and requiring multiple additional turns, which is great. So basically, better prompt handling when you're telling it to do something, and even while it's doing something, you can kind of navigate it better to get closer to the result that you want. And this is an example of it. Break it out. Let me go back to the beginning. And in details of ChatGPT, the baby Japanese, and you see how it interrupted it while I was thinking. I live in Cobble Hill, by the way. You know what I'm saying, so it's telling it information and it is thinking about it, so you can update the information so it better aligns to what you're trying to do versus what it thinks you may be doing. And of course, with safety is a big deal too. So basically talking about how they include like safeguards. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be better prompt injections and stuff. And so these include Granite Cyber Safety Stack, including monitor systems, trusted access controls, and asynchronous blocking for higher risk requests from customers on zero data retention surfaces. So basically, this is good. You want it to be more safe, especially with ChatGPT being closely aligned with the military. We don't want things to be getting out there that shouldn't be getting out. They even are continuing safety on chain of thought to make sure it's nothing's getting added in there mid prompt to make sure it's all pretty much safe. And they're just pretty much saying this is a safer model, better even with using cybersecurity type of AI tools. And so they also talk about the pricing, but here is the pricing down here. We see ChatGPT 5.2 is $1.35, 5.4 is $2.50, 5.2 is $21, but ChatGPT 5.4 Pro is $30. This is kind of expensive of a model based on how well it is. Gemini is a little bit cheaper, I believe, than this, but the prices aren't too bad, especially with the power that it's bringing and all the availability. These are other evaluations, more like human level evaluations too. We see investment banking modeling task. It has an 87%, which is pretty cool. So if you want your own personal investment banker, 5.4 may be your person. We already talked about the GDP val. Even with a financial agent, we see that 5.4 Pro is actually pretty good too. Coding, we already seen the Sweet Bench Pro. Computer vision, we've seen that. Tool use, we've seen that. And academic stuff, QP, GPQA timing is pretty good as well, 92.8%. Either way, I think this is all still pretty good evaluations overall. Tell me what you think. Do you think that this is a huge upgrade for ChatGPT, or do you think that it's okay? It's probably going to be swept underneath the rug in the next month or two when another model comes out. Either way, if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest AI news, you should definitely like and subscribe. That being said, your boy Dex9 Dexter.